Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming. How many of you have done a talk with headsets before? How many of you can hear me with the headsets? Everything seems to be working, it looks like. If there's a problem, there are people here who can help. So just let the folks in the back know. Hi, I'm Michelle Glauser. I am a community developer at Twilio. I'm also the founder of a nonprofit that teaches people to code. So I'm really excited to be able to introduce Jerome today. This is Jerome Hardway. He's from Vets Code, and he's going to tell you about it. Please give him a hand.
Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Everybody hear me? Code 10. I was like, you're like, yeah, I'm good. It's a new thing for me too. I don't understand it. Like she said, my name is Jerome Hardaway. I am by day, I'm head of UI for CBS Interactive. I'm over the comic book brand as of next week. Very happy about that because I am a big geek, the biggest geek you ever think of. Go on my Instagram page, you will see a lot of Captain America stuff, and you'll be like, how are you an adult with all this Captain America stuff? And it's because I have income, that's why. So I tell my kid anyways, like, you're too old for this stuff. I'm like, you mind your business. By night, I am geek at arms. Told you, still in it. At Vetsu Code, what that means is that initially I was doing all of the instruction and sourcing, connections, everything. Now I just basically get to say who else is in charge of something. So that's pretty fun these days. So talks about how open source opens doors. This talk is going to be more about a journey of like how I ended up getting into this industry from security forces, which if you guys have no idea what that is, it's not a technical career field in the military at all, to what we do now with Vetsuco, with other veterans, showcasing some stories of vets that we've helped. Actually, 2 of them have been getting on my nerves today because they are in this city and they're trying to buy me drinks. I don't know why. And also, like, some of the open source technologies you guys can use, particularly with this new Twilio Flex tool that they have, is very UI based, UI focused. Therefore, you're going to need to know 2 things: JavaScript and CSS. So sharing some resources that I love that are near and dear to my heart, so you guys can get up to speed quickly. So without further ado, let's begin. We stand on the shoulders of giants. That is actually from some really, really old book in like the 14th century about like dwarfs standing on giants, literally. I had to research and look it up, but then it was made famous by Sir Isaac Newton, who said that after he found out about gravity. But it's my favorite saying because it just goes down to the belief that no man or woman makes it anywhere alone. So, we all here, everyone in this room stands on the shoulders of open source, be it documentation, mentors, actually struggling through your first few projects like I did. That's where we are. So that's my favorite saying. That's my favorite quote. And if you guys bring that with you, or if you only leave with that, then I've done my job. Warning, I like to include with every talk I do. I'm a veteran. I speak in F-bombs and acronyms fluently, like really good. I'm really good at it. For the sake of this talk, I'm trying my best not to swear or use any of the noun of the noun style acronyms. If you have any military buddies, you know what I mean. If I say anything you don't understand, please ask me to elaborate. Hit me up on Twitter. I always like to fill in the blanks then. And thank you for not reporting me or blocking me in advance. All right, who the hell is this guy? I told you, start off already. My name is Jerome Hardaway. Code name is The Operative. They call me that in the Slack channel because I seem to be able to get a meeting with anyone, and they think that's really cool. Occupation is geek at arms or JavaScript engineer, whichever one you decide to call me. My passion, helping people learn. I should have been a little bit more detailed, helping people from like communities that aren't really exposed to tech learn is something that I'm really focused on. Minorities, veterans, women, anybody, people in like rural areas, anybody who comes from a type of background that I came from, which is no one in the community knew anything about tech. Those are the people that I tend to gravitate towards. And, you know, because once you start showing them how to do things and those eyes light up, it's like a dopamine hit slash addiction that you can't really put into words. It's pretty cool. Weakness, whiskey, Hibiki Harmony to be exact. I should have added donuts with that, and also if you put whiskey and donuts, I'm not going anywhere for the rest of the day. So, more about me. I was Air Force veteran. I was security forces, which is basically cop slash security in the United States Air Force, transitioned into the Phoenix Raven program. Phoenix Raven program is basically this really tough program to get into that was started in 1992, 1993 by the U.S. military after a really crazy bombing called Kobar Towers. What we do is we are attached to a plane and we go anywhere and everywhere that plane is. I've protected dignitaries, high classified crap that I didn't know what it was or what it did. I'm pretty sure there was an alien on one of those planes. Didn't know. I'm joking. I don't know if there's an alien. If you say that, I will deny it and Secret Service will pick you up. I had a really rough transition. When I say that, I had a really rough transition, literally mean it was, I was one of those veteran horror stories you hear on TV where I came out the military thinking that I had the skills and I was prepared for the current workforce, only to get that, boisterous, not boisterous, but that horrible, thank you for your service, but you're not qualified to work here. And I'm getting out of the military during a little thing called the Great Recession. I had no idea what it was until after I was out, and guys like me who had really strong law enforcement and security skills weren't being hired by anyone unless you want to work at Home Depot as a security guard, pretty much. So I spent about a year not being able to get a job. Thankfully I had savings, but I kind of blew through those that first year. And during that first year is when I found code, which is by sheer luck. I was on Facebook, because what do people without jobs do? They are on Facebook. They're the ones with the best memes. On Facebook, and I'm looking around just scrolling, and I see this code.org commercial with Mark Zuckerberg, will.i.am, and some dude that kind of looked like a velociraptor, but he was on the Miami Heat. See, this is why I'm bad at sports, because the guy, I don't know his name. I had 10 years to look up his name, never looked it up. But these guys talking about code. I'm like, what is this stuff? What is this crap? Like, what are they talking about? So I go to my local Barnes & Noble store. Only thing they have is a book on database querying and MySQL. So I'm like, you know what? I'll check this out. So when I'm not going for jobs and going on interviews, I am going through this book. A year later, I ended up getting a job, Department of Homeland Security, database analyst. So it's kind of crazy that a skill that I picked up from a book ended up being my first civilian job versus those 6 years I spent in service when, you thought that, oh, that would help me translate faster. I left my job after a year to go help family in Memphis, ended up getting a job there within a month as a quote-unquote marketing admin. But I'm sure as anybody in this room who has been sometimes the youngest person in the room, and how many of us started, when you're the youngest person in the room with old people, they say, hey, you're young, you should be good with computers, fix this. And that is how my journey into web development really started. I was the youngest dude in the room. They were like, you're in your 20s, you look good with computers, fix our website. But I was like, I don't know anything. You got 3 months to figure it out. And that is how I delved into the world of WordPress and PHP, and how why I hate the world of WordPress and PHP, ironically. So I spent about a year and a half doing that, gave them 3 versions, learned a lot about user experience, JavaScript, PHP, how to do internet marketing and, upsells, workflow, how to make the user do what you want them to do on the web when they hit your website. And I learned all that through the School of Hard Knocks, because no one had any clue what what I was doing as well. So I was like, sure, I'll just figure it out as I go, basically building the airplane as I was crashing towards the ground. Which leads me to the story of how Vetsu Code was created. Firstly, Vetsu Code is a 100% pro bono remote nonprofit that focuses on identifying promising opportunity veterans and training them in JavaScript, ECMAScript, so I don't get sued. Make sure I put that in there because Oracle's in town today. Don't want to play with them. The focus of computer science fundamentals. We're so focused on computer science fundamentals that if you're a front-end masters fan, we brought Brian Holt on our board just for the purpose of making sure that we keep our computer science fundamentals and focus to the forefront. If you're not a front-end masters fan, look him up, look front-end masters up, they're legit. We focus on what we like to call Fern Stack, which is Firebase, Express, React, and Node. Basically, instead of using a NoSQL database, we use Firebase as well. It's easier to play with. UI is a little bit sexier, so we go with that. And a litany of open source tools at no cost to select veterans. When I say that, it's because we have one of the toughest selection processes in our industry. Whereas most nonprofits, all you have to do is have a DD Form 214. We're not like that. The DD 214 is the first step. Well, our secondary steps and third steps is we treat everything from our initial contact till you get into the organization as a job interview. You have an interview with me just to see, if you're a bigger jerk than me, basically. No one so far has been a bigger jerk than me. And then you have a technical interview. The average veteran that we serve, they have had at least 3 months of struggling in the online tutorials and things of that nature to basically figure out if they like code or anything of that nature. And we have pre-work that's available on GitHub for every veteran to go through before they go through an interview, so that way they get a feel if this is something they really want to do. We do that because we want to protect our donors. You want people you want to donate to organizations where you know the people are being served actually are there to do the work, and we do that for our sponsors because the resources we get and we give them, as well as the relationships that we get and we pass down, are very high level, and we want to make sure that that the people we're giving them to are the right people and they won't abuse them or not use them at all. We also have something I was really proud of, like something from the recession that you learn is how to stretch a budget, and that's the first thing you learn in there, like how to make your money stretch. And so for me, my proudest ticket is how we do all this with the lowest amount of fundraising needed to sustain ourselves, currently at exactly $5,312, and we've been able to do that year after year. While other organizations have been expanding and needing more money, we've been expanding as well, but still only needing $5,000. We do this because the first thing we do is everybody in the organization is a software engineer first. Myself, CTO, our head of mentorship, everyone knows how to code. That's the first thing that we did because we felt like you should be able to talk to anyone intelligently about your problems, and they'll be able to either help you get there or find the right person to get you there. All right, I'm a React guy and you're interested in Vue. I can speak to you about the MVC framework components of it, but not be able, I think I can click something, sorry. But if I'm not an expert of it, I will be able to point you to the right person. Same with every person in our organization. That's how we focus on it. Everybody's a developer. Everyone helps everyone. Some of our wins. We were the only veteran nonprofit in 2016 to be asked to come to the White House to meet Barack Obama. Basically, crazy story happened. White House demo day. He asked 50 of the nation's fastest growing nonprofits and startups to come to the White House to meet him on his birthday. And I was like, sure, I guess that's me, sir. I don't know. Can I call you sir? I don't like calling people sir anymore, but that is, we went there, it was cool. I almost got in trouble by Secret Service because I had on a super cool tie that was shiny and they wanted me to take it off and I said no. So got in an argument, almost got kicked out of the White House, so that's cool. Stories I will tell my grandchildren one day. 98% job placement success rate to date. So far, we've helped 126 veterans. When you look at that, it might look like a small number to you, but considering that everybody ended up getting a job in software engineering, and we only do this using $5,000, for us, that's a big thing. And we're very selective, and we are very intensive with our programming. This year alone, we are at $540,000 in salaries, ranging from Chicago, New York, here. We're doing really good this year. And we've successfully completed our longest veteran placement transition. We started with a former special forces candidate who ended up going to Finland on contract, and helped him not only learn how to program, but transition from Finland all the way to Texas and end up being able to get a job at Verizon in the States. It was a very crazy journey, but mission complete. And we were recently awarded a $10,000 grant from Comcast. So that's no fundraising for the next 2 years for me, so I can sleep more. Is this thing still on? There we go. Did I miss anything? I guess so, no. Why JavaScript? First, it's open source. Open source equals to what? Free and readily maintainable, right? So that means there are people taking care of the community, people taking care of the network, people taking care for those tools. So that was the main reason why we made sure that we were using resources that did not really require a license, particularly for newbies, because it goes to my second point, which is easy to set up. If you've ever set up Spring, how many of us are polyglot programmers? Worked in Rails, Java, .NET. Those have a much tougher setup time than if you were to start wanting to code plain ES6 from the gate, correct? Awesome. Glad you guys agree, because that's what we found out, and we quickly switched from doing 2 stacks to 1 for the sole purpose that it was easier for us to help our veterans be able to set up wherever they were in the country or globe and start learning programming. Community gatekeepers and to match troops and similarity. Well, what I mean by that is that like our veterans who are usually coming from weird backgrounds like me and learning tech, most people in the JavaScript community are like that as well. They're either learning how to code, they either learn how to code while in an internship, when they were doing something else, they're either in theater, or some of them are college dropouts. Over 40% of the people who I've met in this industry, they tend to have no college education at all, which is really cool when you see the people that our veterans look up to, like Kyle Shevlin, he was a pastor prior to this, and once again, Brian Holt, who was a college dropout, now leading the world at the forefront of JavaScript engineering. And it gives our veterans motivation, because if these guys can do it, then I know I can, and that helps us. We can cover multiple technologies and tools. We in VWC, we cover everything from data visualization to data science using JavaScript. Is JavaScript a good language for data science? No. Never has, never will be. I do not recommend you to put yourself through that on any day of the week. Unless you are a glutton for punishment, then do what you do. But it helps that we can actually introduce them to these technologies, so that way they have that experience under them. And my most important and my favorite part is it sucks as a language, because it's very unopinionated and there are multiple ways to get to the same path and same solution. It helps us helps us teach them logic, one, and makes it easier for them to go on to other languages. Over 50% of the VWC troops, 50% of them do not work in JavaScript anymore. They usually, after their first year, they move on to another language such as Python, or heaven forbid, PHP, Ruby. These are all languages that while they're in the workforce, they work in now. I have a veteran now. He was with us for 4 months. Was JavaScript, trained JavaScript with us the entire time, ended up not getting a job in JavaScript at all, but in Go and Linux at Microsoft. So that was pretty weird, because I was like, I didn't teach you any of that, so that's cool. As long as you know how to code and you get a job, I don't care. Good. How our veterans are using JavaScript. These are my favorite my favorites in the office or in the Slack channel. Carla, as you see, she's on the far right, big goofball. When we first met her, she was in some small town in Illinois, and she was really frustrated. She was a designer. She was an airplane mechanic in the Air Force. Became a designer and was starting to learn things about web because she was seeing that her job was getting phased out. Like now, as you know, most web designers know some programming these days, right? So she wanted to learn more about code, and she couldn't really find the resources. And because she was an older veteran, she was in most boot camps didn't take the type of GI Bill she had. I think it was Yellow Ribbon or something like that. And she was looking for help. So we brought her in, we trained her up. She's now in Chicago at some fancy agency whose name I cannot pronounce because they're fancy like that. I think they're like a dot or something, and that's their name. And she's having her best life because she's working with Vue.js and she loves Vue. Jason Dooley, one of the veterans currently in the area getting on my nerves. He actually broke a record at our nonprofit. He basically, after the cohort, 14 weeks of training, he ended up getting a job at White Hat Security as a Node developer. Did that in, I think, 3 days. So that was like, never seen that before. I was like, were you interviewing her in class? Didn't tell me. I was like, all right, I'll find out. I haven't found out to this day, but he's been blowing up my phone trying to get me to come out for drinks this entire time. And Andrew James, this is one of my favorite stories. When we met him, he's a Special Forces candidate I was just talking about. When we met, I thought he was trolling me at first. He hit me up on LinkedIn. I thought he was a troll, blocked him. He hit me up on Twitter. He's like, no, I'm not a troll, and told me his story, how he ended up going to Finland for a contract to help with their military, found the love of his life in Finland. She became his girlfriend to his fiance, stayed there, built this relationship and his life with her for the better part of 6 years. And from that, his family, unfortunately back home here, they were having congenital heart failure in his family. Both his parents had really bad hearts, and he had to come back to the States. But he had 0 skills that were transferable in the States that could like help him and his new fiance, because she would have to have a visa. She wouldn't be allowed to work, so he had to be the main breadwinner of the family. So he contacted us. Not only did we train him up in JavaScript and focus on with a very heavy focus on React, we focused a lot on pulling every favor that I had over the past 5 years, working with immigration to make sure that her visa wouldn't expire while he was en route. Working with other companies to give this kid a shot, even though he didn't have a CS degree, but he was a hard worker. Doing this over the course of half a year, and now this is his first week at work at Verizon as an Angular developer. So like he's right now my biggest win of this decade, I guess. Hopefully I get some more fun stories like that. And dang, I blew through that because no one's able to talk back to me because everybody's on headphones. So here are some of the resources that we love at VWC that we picked out for you guys that you guys might use. I put this in the end, but I kind of think it should go in the front. That Node Chat app for the Twilio Flex is a great tool. I don't know how many of you guys are here to learn more about Twilio Flex at this conference, and have you guys played with this yet? Well, that Node Chat app is really elegantly put together. I played with it a little bit. There was some lag time for your code or your password for it, but it's now in general audience. They just announced that, so now everyone can go and get all the tools they need to use it. So check that out. I would definitely recommend. One of the recommendations I would use is if you're trying to do more things on the UI side with it, I would focus. I added Bulma to mine. It was pretty cool, pretty fun. So Bulma CSS actually made it a little bit more fun, a little sexier. And you can do that. I think that's pretty cool that you can add things, take things away as you need it. But that is one of the that's one of the first ones. I guess it is kind of open sourcey, like it's free to play with. So there you go. Mozilla MDN, that was what we call at VWC the Old and New Testament. everything on there. That's the first resource that we push everybody on, especially if you haven't, if you're rusty on your JavaScript. How many of us in here still code JavaScript every day? You, and like you just, I don't know, bro. Yes, you need Mozilla MDN because you're like, that's a little bit shaky. If you haven't programmed with JS ever, learnjs.org, it's a really good resource that is a ugly website, and I recommend ugly websites to developers because developers are the only people who use ugly websites. So that is a really good resource for you. Eloquent JavaScript. If you guys ever heard of that, yay, nay, Kanye shrug, no? 2006, Kanye shrug, let's be clear. No? All right, it's a really great book. It's online, 3rd edition. It's a lot more clearer than a 2nd edition, so I definitely recommend if you had to choose, go to the 3rd one. And Front End Masters. They have all the resources and all the things you should look at if you want to add or take away some of the cool features that the Twilio Flex has, or spruce it up any way, shape, or form. Sir?
A question from your previous slide about languages.
Yeah.
Do any of the veterans switch after JavaScript to TypeScript?
I don't like you because you brought up TypeScript because I don't like TypeScript, but I like you because they do. I'm just joking. Well, they do Angular. I mean, anyone that does Angular has to use TypeScript, right? That's kind of like the feature of that. So I guess the easy answer to that question would be yes, without messing with you. All right. Since I kind of blazed through here, thank you for your time. That's my name, but I'm opening up for Q&A because it's pretty fun, and I was hoping to be able to talk to you guys anyway without those things on. So yeah, hit me up. Hit me up some questions. Let's go. Mic check. You, sir.
I actually work for the Veterans Administration as a software developer.
Hoorah, yeah.
Let's use the microphone so everyone
I'm
can
sorry.
hear.
You got to get
So-
a name too? It's
Yeah,
weird
my name is
talking to a
Rob
guy.
Durkin.
Robert
Durkin.
Lucan? I'll just
and
call you Big Rob. How about that?
Rob is fine, yeah.
Okay.
So I actually work for the Veterans Administration as a software developer, and I'm curious if the VA actually hires any of these developers, and I apologize, I came in late, so if you already talked about the relationship with the VA with veterans, does the VA hire any veterans who are learning to code to actually work for the administration?
When we initially started, we really kind of avoided government at all costs because the harsh reality is government does not move at the speed of software. And if you're trying to keep up with the private sector on software, you can't really go by the government's rules. It's one of those reasons like why now, even though code schools are going through that whole process of like getting the GI Bill funding, we're not in a rush for that. One, because we would have to start accepting, if we would have to start charging people, and we don't charge anyone. And two, because, technology moves fast. Like, last year, everybody's like Vue, who, and today Vue is the hottest thing out there, and they're poking at me to try to add it to the curriculum. So it's just one of those things where, speed kills, and unfortunately that is why we don't work with the government, because speed kind of kills that relationship. I'd rather make our troops more private sector ready and try to focus and massage that relationship. Y'all, you know how fast the VA doesn't move. So you know how long that would take for that relationship when, I have people who have kids who have mouths to feed. I can't have to make an executive decision on that.
Yeah, okay, makes sense, thanks.
Hoorah.
Other questions?
Any more JavaScripty, socially, anything startup-y? I have a ton of them. Have a bunch of experience in a lot of how to get your career up when you're a rookie.
Why do you hate TypeScript?
What's your name first?
My name's James.
James. Why do
I'm about to do a talk on TypeScript directly
Oh,
after.
yeah, okay. We had that talk, and still going to be a hater of TypeScript afterwards.
You can hate. I just want to understand the reason.
I love TypeScript because in the end, it gets compiled to JavaScript or ES6, and therefore I know it's a superset and it's designed for static typing and make your JavaScript safer. But then in the end, wouldn't it just be easier to teach people to write better JavaScript versus creating something to layer on top of JavaScript, like training wheels or that weird thing that they put on the bowling alley for babies? So like, wouldn't it be easier just to teach people, give people better skills at ES6? Or at least that's my belief. But I've been argued. I have a coworker who every week he argues the TypeScript versus ES6. And I don't listen, but I will for the sake of you. I will be more receptive.
Hopefully, I can show you that you can kind of have both, but we'll see.
Can we? I don't know. Let's see. All right, any other questions? I am an open book. Ask away. Going once. Quiet room. You guys don't have any questions? Like, so we can curse now? They told me not to curse.
I heard you say you had some advice for JavaScript rookies.
Say again, ma'am? I don't think that is on. I can barely hear her.
The question was, what is your advice for JavaScript rookies?
What's my advice for rookies in JavaScript? First one was, do you have software engineering experience? Yes or no? How many years?
Well, I took a 10 years break. I have masters in computers
All right,
applications.
so
4 or 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah, before I took the break.
All right, cool. Well, I guess the first thing would be is find a community. The less jerks, the better. But sometimes jerks are fun. Case in point. That'd be the first thing. Find a mentor and do all the reading and all the building. I think people tend to look at what we do as more of a educational thing instead of looking at it more of like, a skill. I look at JavaScript and software engineering in general like I will look at boxing. It's a skills pay the bills type of business. If you don't show up to the gym every day, if you don't show up and hit the bag and go sparring every day, then it's going to show in your work. And it's the same concept with JavaScript. If you're not writing code at least 15, 20 minutes a day, like you don't have to write a bunch of stuff, just solve a problem. That's it. Build a thing, do something stupid. Like, my favorite thing I like to do is like Captain America crap. So just, do that. Treat it as you would a sport. Like if you were to play a sport or want to get better at, the only way you get better at cooking is to cook. The only way you get better at weightlifting or get in better shape is actually showing up and going to the gym, right? So if you treat it more as a skill and like less as something that you just pick up a book and read on, you will progress faster. Hoorah. Any other questions? Visual complaints. Anybody in here is an Overwatch fan? None of you guys play Overwatch? Huh? A little bit, scale of 1 to 10? Like once a week, once a month? Once a week. Who's your favorite character? Who? Oh, that dude's he's cheating. Like, he's a cheap character. Sorry, I'm a big Overwatch fan, so I want to.
What's that?
I can hear just fine. So Genji, so you're a cheater. What game system are you on? Xbox or?
PC.
Of course, because you're a developer and you would be on PC because that's what you do.
Exactly.
Did you make it or did you buy it?
Made it, definitely. Yeah.
Another one, of
It's the only
course.
way.
Like, you're like just fitting all like, this happens at every conference. Yeah, I play PC and I built the PC. So, you're typical. That. Kanye Shrug on you too.
Any other questions? Yes.
It's probably just gonna. Can you hear me? Ask this in person, but what was do you know the MOS, the job of the special forces guy that you helped get that job? Your best story?
Negative. I do not know his MOS. I didn't ask that. Okay. Like he basically told me his story. I remember seeing some paperwork because we asked for that just to prove their background. But I don't. Like I said, my main job is: Are you a veteran? Are you a jerk? Can we verify your veteran status? And can I help you? Like, and are you willing to do the work so that I can help you? A lot of people, like, software engineering has, especially the last 5-6 years, has gotten this, sexy phase in which everybody is looking at the bank accounts, but no one looks at the hard work. And I tell people all the time, this is not like college where you go to a boot camp and you never have to go back to school again. Like, no, you're signing up for education for the rest of your life. And you're asking to feel stupid at least once a week until you retire. So if you can handle that, then you're good. I tell, it's very funny because are, when you meet new developers, so people who are getting new in it, they always treat you like you're a genius because you're not getting frustrated by the problems they have. And I think that people should start wearing like a big shirt that says, no, I've already just made that mistake. Like, that's it. It's very funny when like I have veterans in our Slack channel and they're irritated because there's a problem they're having. I help them solve it, and then they're like, "Yo, you're just so smart." I'm like, nope, just as dumb as you. I just Google better. Like, that's it. I'm not smart. I feel bad. I feel dumb once a week, just like you. And it's just one of those things where, especially as you get more senior, I feel like people should focus on like breaking that wall and letting juniors and entry level devs know that, yo, I make just as many mistakes as you. I still forget how to like link a SAS file to things every time I have to do it. Things like that. Like, I'm Googling every day, just like you. Just my questions are bigger and better. So,
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Vet Hacks shirt guy. Any questions? Anytime someone wants to talk to me afterwards, it's time for me to go
You
sleep.
just want to talk to them. Okay. Anyone else?
All right.
Great. Okay, we are going to wrap up this session. Thank you so much, Jerome.
Hoorah. Well, thank you guys.